Okay, we're going to start, Morgan. That was great. And thank you, Ollie, for showing up. Can we hear your voice? Ollie, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Good. And Khalil, can we hear your voice?
Check, 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 Khalil.
Hey.
So all these other people will fall in as will. And so we'll officially start. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much for coming. So,
and listen, everybody, you pay attention to this man. He knows what he's talking about. Finally, you smart-ass musicians is going to learn a little something about music. Yeah.
no, she blew her line. She's supposed to say, you're supposed to irritate me. That's easy for half of you. So, yeah, it's a real honor and a pleasure to be here. And we're celebrating Fialka book release. Hey, Ginger. And this is both the original track and the Redux, and this is the Salon. So we'll just start off right off the bat. We all pretty much met through Frank Zappa, but Morgan, why don't you tell us, before we go into Zappa, how in the heck did you conceive this thing with this book of mine? You got this book. You're the only person outside the US who actually ordered one. You got this book. Then tell us the process of putting it on your drums and playing. Was it one take? How much did you think about it? Just a little brief summary of how in the heck did that happen?
Well, first of all, what gave me this idea, because I like you. I mean, I like you. I like Gerry Fialka, and Gerry Fialka wrote a book, and that means I want people to know. I want my social media's followers to know that you released a book, and I record tons of stuff all the time. If whatever it is, it could be just some fun thing, or it could be pure promotion for a release or whatever. And I just want people to know that. You released a book, and so I just put it on the snare and I played, and nothing. I'm sometimes I some kind of title come to my mind many years ago that has to do about, because I know you asked, you're wondering how much happened, did the book fall over purposely and stuff like that, but I think that you can develop some kind of ability to control coincidence.
Yeah.
Almost like you have to trust, like yeah, coincidence is coincidence, of course, but if you manage to foresee, like to sometimes you can just have a grow an ability to know that a coincidence can also turn to something that is more or less in control or something. I don't know. I didn't know that the book was going to fall, but I know
Well, that's Morgan, that's perfect, because you touched on two things that are important. The whole theme of the book is that it comes from James Joyce and Finnegan's Wake, and McLuhan's Menippean satirized translation of it is that everyone falls and then gets back up. That's the human condition. And Frank Zappa really summarized it when he said, I'm a failure, but I'm not a miserable failure. So it's how you turn your breakdowns into breakthroughs. And when I worked for George Carlin, I got this flyer in the mail for someone hawking a comedy workshop, and it said, I'm trying to get more control over my spontaneity. So that's what you don't want to control your spontaneity. You want to be free with it. But it's this great line from the golfer Gary Palmer. He said, the more you practice, the luckier you get.
Yeah.
So the fact that you did that in 1 minute, because this is the format now, the industry standard is 10 seconds. My standard is 3 seconds. If you don't impress my shit in 3 seconds, we also want to thank Tyler, because he impressed our shit for 90 minutes. And all these old curmudgeon Zappa people, even Zach shaking his head, he's a young Zappa person, like, how can this guy keep my attention for 90 minutes? And he did it so well that I sought him out. And then I said, hey, let's do this. So we do want to celebrate Frank Zappa for a second, in that the beginning of my book starts with an interview with Chick Strand. And some of you might not know that her husband did this cover. He also did all the Little Feat covers. His name's Neon Park. And if you can dig this, check this illustration of Frank Zappa in Neon's book. That is Frank holding a saw coming out of the box of a magician. So, you know, Frank has magically sort of gathered us all together to explore, you know, what courage is. So I want to ask first round robin question, and we'll start with you, Morgan. At age 20, you had the courage to go and pull on Zappa's coats and said, "Hey, dude, me and my partner Motz, the great Motz, we know how to play one of your songs." Basically, just in brief, one line, what gave you the courage? What was that courage from inside you? How did you tap into that courage?
Well, first of all, we told him that we know all his songs, not just one.
But
So-
still telling him, how did you get to go to tell him? Was it easy to go backstage or something?
Well, Matt's uncle was in the music business. He knew everyone, so he called the tour manager and told him about me and Mats. There, I have my sister's son. He's 17, and he has a Zappa cover band with his drummer friend, and the keyboard player is blind since birth, and he played he listened to Frank's music since he was 7. And he knows all of Frank's music. So all this information Frank received this information, and when he got that information, he just told the tour manager, "I want to meet them."
But what was the courage that you had? You had to still be courageous. You had something in you. So were you just driven? Because at age 20, aren't you a little embarrassed and like, well, maybe this guy won't like us? What gave you courage?
I would say that from from age 17, I was focusing about this to happen, really. I mean, I started to prepare. You know, as many others, I think you learn specific songs that, because if you meet him, you need to know that and that song and stuff like that. So my mind was, I want this, you know, to happen. I didn't necessarily think that it will happen. My naive mindset told me that, well, it still can happen, but I also realized that it's not, maybe, I mean, living here, I'm living on the wrong part of the world to begin with, but still, you know, me and Mats had this thing going, and meeting him, you know, because nobody deserves to meet Frank more than Mats, I would think, you know, because he was also the second part of me, you know. So my mind made me think that this is still, you know, not totally unlikely to happen. And we started to play the songs from a very early age and stuff. So I thought that if he comes here, I want to meet him first as a fan, you know, because when we met him, that was like maybe 1 hour before his concert started, and at that point we didn't even know that he was going to invite us to play with him. So that wasn't that happened on the spot, you know. So if we would know that 6 months before, then you need to maybe get more balls, you know, because now when he asked us, I didn't have any sticks, and the audience was already inside the hall when he asked us come up and play, and there were no time to get scared or anything, you know. We just
well, that was perfect, because I know about Motz and having balls and courage, because Ginger and Khalil there host the Pose Zone, and one year, many years ago, Motz and me played the Pose Zone, and Motz had the courage to play Stevie Wonder, Joe Zawinul, and like a little McCoy Tyner, and then break into Wildman Fisher as I held the melodica and blew into it. Motz is playing this, and all of a sudden Motz's pants fell down on purpose. He dropped trow as a comedy act, and it was amazing because I didn't know it was going to happen.
Remember that?
This was in Hollywood. Okay, Tyler, you're up. What gave you the courage to do this alien orifice 90 minutes? I mean, where's that from? 3 to 5 words, dude.
It was easy because I thought no one would watch it. It was only for me, really. So I didn't care.
But that's still good. You had the courage to tackle the project. What gave you that courage to tackle that project? Because not only do you tell us the breakdown on Alien, you tell us what Frank got from Varese. I've never seen that diagrammed as well. Then you get to know what Frank got from Eric Dolphy, you know, and it's very specific in giving you a big picture. And there's guys who, you know, you're standing on their shoulders, Brett and Samuel Howard. But what gave you the courage to pursue that specifically in Zappa?
Well, it wasn't really courage for me. I just wanted to like have a detailed understanding of what I thought was going on there. So it just became like, I started out just writing stuff down, and then I thought, oh, maybe could make a cool video. And I didn't even have to think about it. I just went into doing it. So courage wouldn't be the right word. Maybe stupidity or ignorance.
That's good. We know about Frank's thinking on stupidity. And Zach, what gave you the courage to reach out to Tommy Mars to play on your album?
Oh God. You know, oh no.
You said, oh God.
to tell you the truth, I had his phone number for about a year and a half before I actually decided to do it. So I'm going to say time.
Time. That's one word. Okay, so Blue Jean Tyranny's a hero of mine. He just passed away last week. An amazing avant-garde pianist. His first band was recruited Iggy Pop as his drummer. So his whole life is people calling him up to say, what was Iggy like? And this guy's way better than Iggy. But Blue Jean Tyranny said, music is a means of deeply informing myself that there's another world. Okay, Khalil, we'll start with you. Is there another world?
I don't get to answer the one about courage.
No, Khalil, if you can do it in 3 to 5 words, what gave you the courage to call me up and say you could play the black page and dunk a football?
Basketball. Sports. Oh, you sports people. Well, I discovered Zappa because I always wanted to shoot for the best. So I loved Michael Jordan and I loved David Letterman because I thought they were the best in their craft. And then I thought Rush and Yes were the best in their craft until one day my friend told me about Frank Zappa, and I went to watch it, Baby Snakes, at his house the next day. And then I realized that Frank Zappa was the best. And so I've been, searching out for the best, and so I landed with Zappa. But then I learned the black page as best as I could with, this was in 1987, 86. So I didn't even know if it was right. I was just going off a little cassette tape, and I transcribed it, and I learned it on 3 different instruments. And I called Gerry and I said, I can play the black page on 3 different instruments, and I can dunk a basketball. And I was,
not a football.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know. I was 17. So, but the courage, or the reason I called Gerry was I had no idea, but that phone call would lead to a 34-year friendship that Gerry and I still treasure and
we work at it. We're in therapy. Okay. Good diversion. Khalil, is there another world?
Another world?
Yeah. He said music is a means of deeply informing myself there's another world. Is there another world?
I think so. I believe so. I believe that everything that around us and that we see is not all there is. I think there's something a little more, but I don't really know too much more than that. So, but I do think that there is something else out there.
But maybe music is more proof of another world than people who believes in the typical Jesus thing, because because people who believes in Jesus or like some kind of religious things, they get power from that, no matter if Jesus exists or not. So maybe that's partly the same thing with music. You feel good having music in your life, and if that means there is another world or not, that's maybe hard to say. But music probably shows that more than the scripts. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
No,
well,
that's good.
that's
Good,
that's what the evangelicals say. They say, "What do you mean there's no proof of God? Look at that beautiful river. Look at that beautiful mountain. Listen to this beautiful music. That's proof that there is a God," and all that. So, but that is a lovely way to look at it for sure. And by the way, hi Morgan. I haven't seen you in a long time.
By the way, we don't want to leave Ollie out either, but let's go to the next one. The next
Yeah.
question is,
Ollie.
what?
That's Ollie. Oh my God.
Isn't Ollie
Hi,
looking good?
Ollie. Oh my God, I did not recognize you.
Okay, so it will go round robin, and we'll start with Ollie on this one, not to leave you out. What dominates your starting and finishing points when you're composing? The 4 elements that Aaron Copland said of music: melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. Just briefly, what dominates when you're going to compose? What element is dominant in the beginning and the end?
Well, it's really more of a improvisation. So it's more of like an instant composition for me, because I don't really know how to thoroughly compose music. So I usually start with, if it's completely free, just an unintentional sound, and then I let it kind of organize itself from there.
Super, Zach. You want me to repeat the question, or you got it?
I think I got it. I'd say it depends on where I expect the music to be played. So if it's something that I'm just going to listen to for myself, it's very free form and it can be whatever. If it's something for a rock band to play live, I have to think, okay, I need to make sure that there's a rhythm at a certain tempo to keep all these folks from going to the bathroom in the middle of the song.
Good. Why does it hurt when I pee in this Zoom? Okay, Morgan,
Yes.
You're up. When you compose something, even like that 1-minute piece for this amazing video you made for my book, I'm so grateful. When you're composing on the spot, like Ollie said, improv, what dominates your thoughts? Melody, harmony, rhythm, or tone color?
Well, maybe it's a surprise that I don't use drums as a composing tool. Maybe I should, but forever and ever I used a sampler to create music, and I can't even play keyboards, but I have like a vision of sounds that I want to hear. So I make my samples, I tweak sounds, and suddenly I have like a color palette of sounds that makes me inspired, because if I just play drums, I don't get inspired necessarily by that. So I need sounds, I need that first, you can say. So that's how I start, and with the sounds. And but on the other hand, I think that what I was looking for 20 years ago might be different from what I'm looking for now. So now it could be more minimalistic, maybe compared to 25 years ago. So I'm for the next projects, I will build stuff from very minimalistic things, and maybe even drums, not necessarily samples and stuff like that.
Thank you so much. And Tyler, you got this 1-minute drum piece from Morgan. Talk about that. You had a beginning and an end in it in 59 seconds. Where did melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color come in?
I thought about melody pretty much the entire time, because that's always been the thing that catches my ear first, and I just love that feeling of like just hearing a great melody. So it felt like he played it almost in sections, even though it's not. So I thought it could be like 3 or 4 different melodies that stop and start, and I just pretty much base it around that.
Khalil, you're a composer. How
Gerry,
do you answer that?
sorry, I just have to say.
Go ahead, Morgan.
Sorry. I just have to say that what he did with the guitar was fantastic. I you know, because when I heard this, it's not like someone added some random things or something. It, to me, it felt like 100% natural. Everything was just natural. It's like this was how it was. It was almost like maybe I you know, it's some people can't even imagine that the drums were recorded before the guitar.
Yeah,
People might
totally.
people might think that I already knew these chords and the melody, and that's why I play like I did, you know. So yeah, it's it's just good music, very
Yeah.
good music.
It's so great, Tyler. I just worship what you did. This is what a miracle recording. It's a really, really exciting way that it came about. And my hat's off to both of you, Tyler, that you could go in there and just hear this, basically a song.
Yeah.
in there.
Thank
And
you.
so the beauty of it all was it's almost reverse synachrony of a word that Frank Zappa made up, which is called strange synchronizations, because Morgan didn't know that this was going to happen. And then Tyler was able to reverse it. That's why if you read my essay on medium.com, it's called Re-Tylerizing Music. And it goes into what vocalese is and what Mono Neon is doing all the time with his 1-minute videos. So Khalil, you compose in 3 to 5 words. What dominates your starting and finishing points? Melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color.
Rhythm and harmony. Okay, so that was that. The second thing I wanted to say was Morgan touched on something about his compositional focus starts with, sounds like timbre, which is what Frank said. Frank said timbre is king. So in other words, Morgan may get inspired by a particular timbre that takes him in a direction, and then he goes with that based on the timbre of that instrument or the sound or whatever. So Frank, I think Frank was right, because at the essence of composition, it comes down to what instrument, what timbre are you playing with? So that was interesting that Morgan said that. And then I think Tyler did an amazing job with Morgan's drum track, making that piece. But what the deeper piece is, hiding behind all that, is Gerry. It's Gerry's art. You know, it's like his art made that happen. His scavenger hunting. He put, like, we all know, those of us who are Gerry files, we know that Gerry's art, what some of his best art is putting people together and then walking away.
Yeah, Khalil, you're mispronouncing the word. It's fart. You got the F. It's Gerry's fart.
And I dare say he got that whole idea of how to run his life from Frank Zappa.
Well, no, I got it from many people, but Frank's, we're standing on the shoulders of Frank's shoulders, and we're trying to look beyond that. But indeed, that was really good. Everybody, Zach, did you want to comment on? You already did, Melody. Oh, you did it. Okay, so let's do.
Hi, Zach. Hi, Ollie. Hi, Zach.
Hey guys.
The three
Hi.
T's. The 3 T's of music are technique and theory and taste. My friend brings those up, and they're very interesting because Dave Liebman, the great saxophonist who played with Miles, also said head, heart, and hand is similar. So, Tyler, we'll start with you. Where do you get taste and you can't say listening? We've already gone over that. We know you can listen, but where inside the human do you get taste? Go ahead, Tyler.
I was thinking about that, and one thing that came to my mind was I remember my dad talking about going to see Wynton Marsalis in the 80s, and like he described the jazz club like perfectly, and like he could talk about how the stage was lit, like how the musicians walked out and everything, and I was like, oh, jazz sounds pretty cool. Like I'm got interested in that because of like how he could describe that experience for him.
That's deeper. That's the environment. So Morgan, you've had amazing taste. You grew up listening to Tony Williams, who played a yellow drum set, and Elvin Jones and all these jazz rock fusion guys. Where did you get your taste? You know, you've studied technique. You got amazing technique. You know theory. what? So where did you get your taste? Not, you can't say listening, that's evident.
Well, I don't think you can I mean, you can develop taste. It's a very hard, tricky question because you can't really study taste. You have taste or you don't, I think, and if you don't have taste, maybe you will grow some taste because of all your experience and stuff like that. I think you are just the result of all the sources of inspiration that you get, and sooner or later you will hopefully develop what is called taste. But sometimes even the most skilled, technically skilled musician doesn't necessarily have taste. It's I think taste is something else, and I don't. It's like Pablo Picasso said, you can't teach how to paint. You can't teach that. It's something you have. It has to be found. So it's yeah.
Beautiful. Well put, Morgan. And Ollie, I was sitting with you years ago and you played in Susie's bands for years. You know how to read music. And I said, what do you think of Ornette? And you go, that's my favorite music. I says, what do you think of the Meters? You go, that's my favorite music. So where do you get taste, Ollie?
I think just from life experiences, I started getting into really dissonant music after I got dumped by a girl. And so I think life just kind of pulls you in different directions. And then you hear different things. Like, I'm not an expert on Frank Zappa, but when I was in high school, my friend had a tape of Joe's Garage, and we drive around in his car listening to it. And that opened up a whole nother world to me, just hearing the lyrics with the music. And then I got into other albums of his, and it's just kind of like water going down. It just makes its way through the earth, and that's how your music kind of evolves. You just kind of grow as you hear certain things lead to other things.
That's like mud is the fifth element. Very good. Okay, Zach, you got great music and you're articulate.
Yeah.
How do you answer that one, Smarty Pants?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say it's a combination of what two folks have already said, which is one, I mean, we're all born with our own taste. So, that's just its own ingredients that are never going to change. And two, life experience. And three, I think, especially for musicians, a lot of it is formed from actually going out and trying to learn the music that inspires us, or something that feels a little bit different. I remember when I first, wanted to take bluegrass a little bit more seriously than just, that funny music in the background of the car chases and the cartoons or whatever. And then you go and you start to say, oh my God, I mean, this banjo picking patterns, is this really fast runaway train drum beat. I mean, look at the chops, look at all this amazing musicality here. And from there, then you say, okay, well, then maybe I'm just going to go from that into something slower, folk music, and then from that into something fast again, like punk. So I think it also depends on your journey just as a musician.
Very good. Okay, Khalil, you want me to repeat the question or you got it?
No, I'm good. I'm just listening and enjoying everyone's responses. And I think that there's a danger with the word taste, in the same way that there's a danger in the word art. They're so broad and they're so hard to define and pin down, that when someone says something like that's art or that's not art, or that's tasteful or that's not tasteful, it's such a part of the beholder that it's hard to define and pin down. But I will say that I think taste is something that you strive for rather than it falls on you. I think it's something that you seek out, and therefore, that just like there is such a thing as good art and bad art, there just is. But there's also you can have good taste and bad taste, but what's dangerous is when we say something is not in good taste or in something is not good art. I think those are very slippery slopes. And remember, Frank himself said, when they said, people think of you as a genius, are you a genius? He himself said, there's no accounting for taste.
That's like when they said, you know, the names I gave my kids, the first names aren't the ones that are going to get them in trouble. It's the last name. But you really touched on William Blake. He said, we become what we behold. In the great Venice artist, where Khalil will be ripping up people's brain cells with his marimba Zappa thing in a couple weeks. Duggo says, art isn't, which is an amazing phrase, because art
he's a
isn't.
really good artist. So.
And then to really summarize it, it's Walter Pater says, all art aspires to the condition of music. You know, painting, films, books wish they could be as cool as music, because music is the best. So now we want to thank Tyler again, because he's got this great division. This is called pattern recognition. We get a big picture view of the chops guitarist and the feeling guitarist. And so we're going to be doing a Zoom in the next month or so. So please join us then. But we'll go on what you guys all touched on. Amazing. Ollie's metaphor with water. And Morgan saying grow. Miles said sweat can fertilize sound, the sound of a composition, and it's what makes your sound grow. So the question is, what is beyond sweat? You guys all have work ethics up the yin yang. Kick back and have a little slack. So Khalil, we'll start with you, because Zappa always wanted to know don't settle for what sweat is. We know that sweat fertilizes the sound of music. Yeah, that's Miles. Okay, what's beyond sweat? Khalil, we'll start with you.
Satisfaction.
Yeah.
Very good, Zach.
Yeah.
Tears and blood. So blood, sweat, and tears.
Tears and blood.
Excellent.
That sounds like a bad Blood, Sweat, and Tears Eric Satie ripoff album. Okay. No, that drummer. Okay. Ollie, what's beyond sweat?
Just growth.
Growth. All right. And Morgan, you work your butt off. You could tell. Watch all those videos of you on the Henry Kaiser. It's endless. What's beyond sweat?
I don't know. Non-sweat, maybe.
And Tyler.
Satisfaction.
Say it again.
Satisfaction.
Satisfaction. Yeah. Okay, so the other thing is Cecil.
That's two satisfactions. We got two satisfactions.
I got that too. Count them. Two.
And so Cecil Taylor was a hero, has always been a hero of mine, and I was very happy that Frank Zappa listed his name in Freak Out. And he basically said that he's just a vehicle, and this stuff just comes through him. But it also could be that what is the dominant culture or technology is what causes us to create. And I'll give you two examples and putting it in the terms of drummers. So Morgan, you listen up. This is where Ginger Baker claims he got his sound, because he was in London when they were bombing, and it went like this. Boom, 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 boom. And that's where he got his drum sound. Wow. If you listen to one of the greatest James Brown's drummers ever, the funky drummer, he says, where'd you get you basically invented funk drumming. Where'd you get it from? He said, he's living in Ohio. He said, there's a factory on one side of my house, and there's a railroad track on the other. And the railroad track went, and the factory went, psst, psst, and that's where he got it.
Wow.
So
I've got to go, everybody, but this has been so great.
Bye, Susie.
No. Thank you. So we'll start with you, Zach. Is the creative making of music more self-expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever culture and technology is dominant? I know it's both and it depends.
Well, I'm gonna okay. Well, first I'm gonna agree with you and say both, and then secondly, I'm gonna say it definitely comes from whatever's popular and happening at the time in the culture. If we were to look at jazz, you brought up mono neon. Some weird trends I've noticed is that I think that the main synth sound seems to be the synth sound that all of these people heard as kids playing Dance Dance Revolution, but now they're doing it with sophisticated, 9 chords and stuff. And then, the drums are the same kind of drums that you would have heard in a video game when, drum and bass became popular. So everything is boom, boom, and then, and meme humor. I think that a lot of the jazz now that I've been seeing and the clips of it on Instagram and YouTube are all sort of mono neon-esque things where it's just, oh, I'm going to do a musical meme. I'm going to meme this. Or, Jacob Collier just posted that video of him shredding on the keyboards. And if you look at the note data, it says happy 2021. So that's almost kind of an insider joke because you can see, oh, these are my chops. This is the humor. All of which goes back to Frank Zappa, the greatest musical satirist of all time.
And yeah, you accomplish it, but make fun of it. How many people in the middle of their album would start making fun of Bob Marley? I'm jamming. I mean, that is fucking takes balls. Okay, Khalil, more self-expression or more vehicle for culture or technology?
At this point, it for me, it's more of a vehicle for cultural and technology than it is for looking deep. I work with my wife. We do, you know what I mean? We're trying to reach a mass audience, and we're trying to write music that's a little more mainstream so I just see it as a commercial vehicle at this point. But I mean, geez, I play all these different instruments and doing I dedicate time to different things. So I don't know if I can answer that question fully.
That was good though. And it's like the tangent question is what Frank Zappa would ask. Khalil, are you willing to sell your cock and your balls to be in the music business?
I'll pass on that just because my kids are in the room.
Zach, well, I won't repeat it. This tangent question will go round robin. Zach, are you willing?
Man, those have been sold long ago. They're gone. I'm practically a Ken doll at this point.
Okay, Ollie, you've been in the music business for years. Are you willing?
Well, I'm in it for pussy, so if I sell my balls, I'm fine.
Morgan.
Answer no.
All right, and Tyler.
I would have done it to play with Frank. So
that is a great answer. Okay, so now we're on Ollie. Is music creating more self-expression or more vehicle for technology or culture?
Well, for me, from my perspective, I aspire to be a professional musician, so I try to please whoever I'm playing with and still express myself. But on a personal level, I'm just in it for self-expression. If I'm doing my music, which would be, I just like improvising, so that's total self-expression, and I don't really care if people like it or not. But then there's the dichotomy of if I'm playing with other people and I'm serving someone else's music, then I want to live up to their vision and also be able to express myself in that in the confines of that.
Gotcha. And it's an amazing question that Frank was so good at helping us invent new questions. Is he says, I just do this music for myself. If other people like it, great. It's like, get over it, Frank. You're romanticizing the creative process, because he knew if he hit a certain note and sang a certain lyric, it would help him get equipment so he could stay up all night and write more music. But he wanted to express himself the best he could, and that was he embraced contradiction. So he would contradict himself. Okay, Morgan, you're up. is the creative process more self-expression, or more it's a vehicle for whatever technology or culture is dominant?
Well, I'm not sure if I get some of those words are hard for me to get. As for what the question is, can
Well,
you?
let me just say one more thing. It's like when Ginger Baker said he got his sound from being bombed in London as a kid.
Yeah.
That was the dominant thing where he got his sound. It wasn't like, I'm going to self-express myself with jerk offs like Eric Clapton. So, you know.
Ooh.
Sorry. I know a guy. Let me tell you, you guys want Zappa. Cleo always wants Zappa anecdotes. I know a guy who was at the shrine watching Frank and the Mothers play, and they brought Eric Clapton up. Frank goes, and here's Eric Clapton. And he came up on stage and played a solo. Frank played a solo, and Frank's solo blew Eric off the fucking stage. You know, so anyways, I
Do you
think Eric.
think that was the same year that Jimi Hendrix sat in with Cream and blew Eric Clapton off the stage in London? Wouldn't it be funny if it happened to him twice with Frank Zappa and Jimi Hendrix? And that's when he said, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm slow hand. Here's Wonderful Tonight.
No, I don't want to degrade to the Eric Clapton like we did
funny.
Bowie the other time, but my friend's a street musician, and Eric used to live in Venice, and he walked up to him and he started talking to him, and he dropped a 20 in his bucket. So that was good. Okay, so anyway,
That really quick, Gerry, that sounded like I couldn't tell who dropped a 20 into whose bucket. Like, did Aaron? It was Eric, the street musician, and someone gave him a 20. I couldn't tell, but either way, it was funny.
No, basically, Morgan, it's like, where did you get your sound from? You know, it's like, did you discover this thing? I can be self-expressive, or, you know, the way Zach explained it, he was people are influenced by the TV shows they were watching, by, like, Frank was influenced by American musicals. He quotes Surrey at the Fringe on top in the middle of a guitar solo. He was influenced by the great American songbook, but he won't outright admit that too much. So I'm just trying to say, Morgan, where did you get it? More from your environment or more from this desire to self-express?
I think I had a need to make rhythms even before anything inspired me, like, because there wasn't like a lot of music in my home. I think my father was singing a bit, you know, singing, and there was music, but I think I started to make beats, rhythms before I had a specific reason for it. I think I needed to do it for some reason. I don't know why, really.
Yeah, no, that was a good answer. Okay, Tyler.
Yeah, I can't imagine trying to make the music that I do without being exposed to it. It was like just totally cultural for me as far as what my family listened to. Like, my mom loved Marvin Gaye and James Brown, and my dad loved Charlie Parker, and I kind of want to make music that sounds like both of those things combined. So that's where
Nice.
That's pretty good. Okay, so even though we got more time, we'll sort of veer down to a close here. It's been a real honor and a pleasure to have all of you here. And Khalil, we'll start with you. What has music taught you about yourself?
It's man. Can we go back to the thing about the cock and balls? No.
That is a good.
That's my answer. That's my answer. That's my answer.
You're supposed to answer perceptually and not conceptual. That was very good. A+, Khalil. Okay, Zach, what has music taught you about yourself?
Okay, ready for the corny end of Zoom call answer? Ready? That there's always a place where you can be fully honest with no consequences, and you can have the most amount of self-expression, and maybe you'll like it and maybe you'll don't, and maybe you won't, but you'll see your true colors for what they are.
Yeah, that is good. That reminds me of when Ollie and I play at a coffee house. I just play fake Cecil Taylor, and he's doing these amazing licks. And it's like so fun. And you can watch it on YouTube. It probably has 412 hits. But it is amazing what we get out of it, you know, and we have fun and we miss it. I miss it, Ollie. Okay, Ollie, you played music for many decades and you're good at it. What has music taught you about yourself?
That I suck. No,
I
it
know
just,
you don't suck, man.
it just every time I play, it just makes me realize that there's so much more to learn and just get better, and just that's pretty much it. And just not be too hard on myself, but still try to learn and get better. And yeah, it's
Oh,
just
that's good. Ollie, that's good. That's why Khalil hires you, Susie hires you, and you when you play for me, it's like, how much are we not paying you? Double that. Okay, so Morgan, you're up. What has music taught you about yourself?
Oh, this is hard in in a foreign language, but
Oh, wait, Morgan, do it this. Tell us in your language first. I'm serious. Say it in your language as much time as you need, and then translate it.
Yes, that is cool. That is
Yeah.
cool.
do you want real Swedish, or you want the Swedish, the Muppet Show? Scoobly doobly
Swedish.
scoobly doobly.
No, you choose. Probably real Swedish, so Swedish people will
Well,
love it.
actually, even in Swedish, it's maybe takes a while to say, you know. But I think what Zach said was good, and I think that it maybe, I think there is, like on the Magma Live album, there is a lot of text inside, not on the Kobaya language, but also like text that you can read, and it says the music of Magma is like a mirror of yourself or something. I can't remember what the words were, but like if you listen to this music, you will realize who you are, like that kind of thing, you know. And I think I think music made me realize a lot of things. Also that nobody around is in this world except for me. My neighbors is not here, but so it's something. So that means I don't know what conclusions to make of that, but you know, I met Hermeto Pasquale a couple of months ago, and I told him that. Maybe I should, you know, because I was just trying to cheer him up and tell him that I love this music too. And I told him that maybe I never had to go to the shrink while I grew up, and maybe that's partly because of your music, because I got very happy to listen to music. So maybe I should give you some money instead, I told him.
Oh,
And,
now how'd you hit it? You met Hermeto on a Zoom or in live?
No, I met him many times. Like when he plays in Stockholm, I met him a couple of times. We were, yeah. So so that's what I told him, because I think that music really can help how you feel, and I meant that not as a joke, but I really meant that. I'm sure that music made me feel better. It was easier for me to deal with the planet Earth, you know. Having all this music from the start made it much easier to, you know, you view things through music, and it's easier that way, I think.
Yeah, that was really well put, Morgan. And Hermeto Pascal, I always call him the Frank Zappa of Brazil.
Mhm.
And Frank is the Hermeto Pascal of America. So Tyler, you're up. What has music taught you about yourself?
Yeah, I think it's taught me that I really like problem solving in specific ways. Like, either you're in the key of G, how do you get to the key of B flat? Or here's a video of someone playing a drum solo, add guitar to it, or whatever it is. And it's just like being creative, really, just trying to figure out solutions is something that I just really love.
Yeah, problem solving is a great question. Let's follow that up and go right around. Tyler, we'll start with you. Is polyrhythm invented or innate? Meaning, is it more innate in humans or more invented? Of course, it's both, but the sense of polyrhythm, innate or invented, Tyler?
Innate, because the people that do it the most, like in Africa, they, I don't know if they have a word for it. Maybe they do, but you don't even have to teach them about it. They just already do it.
Morgan, you get the question?
Yeah, I can. For some reason, I come back to Magma now because I can quote Christian Vander. He said once, "My favorite, the sea, my favorite rhythm, no problems with tempo." You know the. You see,
Wow, no problems. No problems with tempo. That is totally Frank Zappa. The ocean is the ultimate solution.
Yeah, yeah.
Which took me 30 years to figure out the double entendre there. I was over my head. Okay, so Ollie, is polyrhythm more innate or more invented?
For me, it's not innate, but for some people that I hear, I think it's innate. I was watching a Bela Fleck documentary where he goes to Africa and he in search of the roots of the banjo, and there's all these people he meets that are playing that are little kids, and they sound like they just innately have polyrhythms as part of their culture. But for me, it's something that I have to work on, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around it unless I practice it and clap it and analyze it.
Let me just interject one Bella story. I talked to him once. I says, "Where'd you get your sound?" He says, "I was sitting in my room practicing Doc Watson, and my brother across the hall was playing Return to Forever. So I stood in the hallway and said, 'How could I blend these two?'" I says, "Dude, that's exactly what Charles Ives did. He sat in church and heard the choir music in one ear and the marching band go by the church in the other, and he goes, 'I'm gonna blend them.'" Okay, you're up, Zach. Polyrhythm, innate or invented?
I'm gonna go with innate, and I really like what Morgan said. I love talking about the ocean as this tempo-less musical entity, but I'm gonna add on to that with a Zappa quote, because I believe there was an interview where he said, when you think about it, 4/4 common time and locking everything to a grid is the most, unusual non-human rhythm you could possibly think of when you consider how many polyrhythms are just in nature and in everyday life. I mean, in the way we speak, I'm going to the store to get some groceries. That's its own rhythm. Combined with our footsteps, car horns, wind, trees, it's all a polyrhythm. It's all one composition.
Yeah, it's the big no. Very good. Okay, Khalil.
Also, Gerry, where did you get your sound?
Say it again.
Where did you get your sound?
Where did I get my sound? SOUND?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Let Khalil answer and I'll think up a smart assy question. Go ahead, Khalil.
No, that's way.
Is polyrhythm more innate or invented?
Hearing you get where you get your sound is way more interesting than me about polyrhythms. And
I got it.
I think that polyrhythms, I'm just going to go against the grain of the Zoom and say they are more invented.
Yeah, come on,
just
Khalil.
because
I agree with you. I'm
just
serious.
because we got to spread the love a little bit.
Yeah, these guys don't do that. Like what you do, Morgan, that's not fucking innate. That's invented. But it's not that there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions. But all you guys got you got them all right every time. So you're top of the class. I would say very good question, Zach. I wouldn't want to ruin it with an answer, but I will. And that is being raised in. That's John Cage. Being raised in Flint, Michigan, born 1953, we were told, don't drink or go near the Flint River. It's polluted. In 1962, 9 years later, the word polluted came into our lexicon because of Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring. People didn't think there was pollution, DDT, anything until like 62. So being raised in a motor city town, Flint, Michigan, I got my sound from hearing Jamie Jamerson in Motown mixed with Iggy Pop, mixed with Elvin Jones and all the Jones brothers, and in mushing it with my sister bringing home Led Zeppelin 2 and my friends playing me Chicago blues and my parents playing me American musicals. But I think it's the mama heartbeat you get when you come out of your mother's womb. Captain Beefheart nailed it. When he was in his womb, his mother's womb, he says, I don't want to come out. And he, you know, that's why he taught Drumbo how to play the drums, you know, whatever, unless you believe Drumbo's book, it's all good, but it's like, he went against the grain of the mama heartbeat. So where did we get drumming from? Well, it extends the humanness of your mother's heartbeat when you're inside the womb. But then how do you get a polyrhythm out of that? Well, she's probably got polyrhythms going. And so then we got to invent words. So the word sound, I'd summarize it in the fact that there was a jazz drummer who played with the Funk Brothers. I don't know which one it was, but they said, don't play drums anymore, just play the tambourine. So all the Motown hits as a jazz, you know, drummer hitting one measly instrument. So the sound is when you can nail it down. So if anyone ever asks me, what do you play? I say, I take an empty cassette box and I hit it on the side of my leg. That's where I got my sound. Or better yet, I got it from the kazoo, you know, which is, how many people know that Jimi Hendrix main riff in Crosstown Traffic?
It's a kazoo.
It's a kazoo. And he says, there wasn't even a kazoo in Electric Ladyland. He said, does anyone have a comb and a piece of paper? So, I mean, it's amazing. You know, I got my sound from not being able to, you know, the first guitar I started playing on, the strings were like this far off the fret, and I had to use pliers to hold a note down.
That's not action, that's reaction.
Thanks for making me ask a question. Anyways, I think we got an extension on this, but I have to go start another Zoom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave and oh, look at that nice picture. Thank you. There's Gerry playing a kazoo.
Oh, what?
What an illustration.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
What
this
year?
What year
this
is
is
that?
Morgan?
this is I think this is in 90. Yeah, first
Yeah,
time
well,
first time I
it's the
visit you.
same, it's the same place. But what I would do,
Wow.
Tyler, is I'd turn the recording off and you guys can schmooze till your heart's go content. And just so we can put the rest of it on YouTube. And I thank you immensely. So whatever you do, don't freak out in Zooms like this.